What's up,
Hello, hello, hello.
heathens? How y'all doing? I'm the Godless Engineer, and I'm here with Aaron Adair, Dr. Aaron Adair, and we are here to take your calls tonight. And we settled on does science beat Jesus? I think is what we ended on, right? Do y'all
Mm,
think that science beats Jesus, or does Jesus beat science? We're here to burst your bubble and say that he doesn't. Um,
Come burst some bubbles with us.
Yeah. So, Aaron, how you doing tonight?
I'm doing okay. Good level of crazy going on in my life.
Yeah. I know we were talking about a couple of papers that you got coming out. I'm pretty excited about those. I love it when people in our communities like putting out scholarly work like that. So I'm really excited to see about those. But if anybody wants to call in and challenge our whole idea about science beating Jesus, or how Jesus is fake or something like that, not real, call the number. It's 720-619-2288. We'd love to hear from you. Or there's a web link in the description if you don't have a phone number in North America. We'd love to talk to you about how science totally overrides the whole Jesus idea. Now, Aaron, I guess kind of putting you on the spot here, right off the top of your head, like what bit of science do you think would not disprove Jesus, but overcomes the claims of Jesus?
Oh, well, if we're talking about the Jesus that's supposed to be the creator of the universe, well, we're going to take a look around and say, hey, that creation, does it actually fit what the book about Jesus says, how things actually work? So, for example, does that world happen to have a mostly flat shape held up by pillars with a giant hardened dome over it that keeps water above it, and so there's actually no outer space? Things like that would make you wonder. I don't think this Jesus as God that makes the world that way looks right. That'd be, one bit of science I would look to and say, that ain't it, that ain't it, Chief. Do kids still say that? I don't know.
I mean, it sounds right to me. So, for me, one bit of science would be that levitation isn't a thing as far as we can tell. Like, at least levitation as it's presented in the Gospels. Jesus supposedly ascends up into the heavens. I mean, there's a lot of different scientific inaccuracies in the Jesus story. So, like, there's Jesus ascending thing. Like, where the fuck is Jesus going when he ascends? Does he just go to outer space and die? Is he more like a Superman kind of character where he, you just hand wave away the need for oxygen or something like that? Like what happens when Jesus, penetrates the sky, in that kind of fashion? Um,
Yeah, it's a cosmology problem right there because where's Jesus' destination? In the old one, like if you look in like Revelation, well, where's heaven? It's the sky. And so all you have to do is get past the hard dome where there's some doors, and then you get to hang out with Jesus and God sitting on a chair, literally resting on the hardened dome of the universe. I shouldn't say the universe, because the universe for them was just the earth. So a lot smaller than the one we have. Conversely, if Jesus even was traveling up into space at the speed of light, he hasn't even left this galaxy. And what's his destination?
Yeah, I have no idea. I don't know where in the fuck Jesus is going when he ascends up into the sky. Another good one for the New Testament is the divine revelations. There's no scientific backing for any kind of divine either the divine realm in that aspect, or in like divine revelation being something different than like hallucinations or other such experiences that are just distortions. Like the mind distorts reality and you just perceive these things without them actually being real. I think
Hmm.
those things are probably more likely to be true than not. And then, oh, hey, let's talk about another thing that we could talk about is how the prophecies don't
Hmm.
like aren't true, and how that they're not prophecies, or Jesus never fulfilled any of the prophecies.
Oh yeah, I think my favorite fact when it comes to how Jesus is supposed to be the fulfillment of like the weeks of years prophecy of Daniel which itself was trying to fix a prophecy in Jeremiah about the length of the exile and then the Jews taking over the world afterwards, and that not happening. Then Daniel comes along and says, oh, it's not 70 years, it's 70 weeks of years. And then that places it, if you do the math, in the end of the world is in the 160s BC. People noticed, oh, it's not the end of the world yet. All right, we're going to try to fix that. And what does Jesus and the Christians do? Oh, he's also fulfilling this sort of prophecy. And so we get these end of the world prophecies, including by Jesus saying, this generation shall not pass until all these things are done. And, well, 2,000 years later. So I think this is an observation that that version of Christianity is not true.
Yeah. I mean, it amazes me. It truly does amaze me how far some Christians will go to like apologize or create defenses for, these supposed prophecies that are supposedly being fulfilled. I feel like if more people understood like what Pesherim was or how the New Testament was actually cobbled together, I feel like people would understand where we're coming from on that personally.
Uh, Speaking of personally, we want to personally get in contact with you, the audience. If you want to come in, challenge us. John and I just laid down some smack. I'm pretty sure not everyone agrees necessarily with everything that we said, even though it's 100% correct. So we got the number down here, 1-720-619-2288, or the web link in the description. Call in. All the lines are open, and if you're a theist, we're prioritizing you. So call on in, talk with us, challenge us. We want to hear from you.
Yeah. So while we wait on our first caller to gain the courage to call in, you got anything going on there, Aaron, that you want to talk about, or anything going on like academically or anything like that?
Yeah, so our group at MIT, we've got a couple papers in the work in some of the methods we have related to education and the measurement of people's ideas. So the fancy term is psychometrics. We were actually been talking before the call about like a caller coming in that sounded like a psychopath and the psychopath test. And well, measuring psychopathy is a kind of that sort of measurement. Though if I'm testing any students as psychopaths, I'm not doing it in a way I'm realizing. I'm testing them on physics knowledge. If physics turns you into a psychopath, it's an unexpected result. Uh, so we got some fun going on there, and then on my own side hustle, I've got several different papers in production related to New Testament studies. So
Okay.
yeah, throwing down some stuff, especially relating to Justin Martyr, because he's one of our earliest clear witnesses to the Gospels. And what he does and doesn't say about the Gospels is kind of interesting. And I'm going to try to be pushing back at some previous assumptions that's mainstream in New Testament studies.
Oh, cool. Like I said, I can't wait to read that one because that sounds so interesting. I love those kinds of papers that kind of look at the evidence that we have from different angles and point out different things. Like there's this one paper I read that was about the Greek influence of the first Gospel of Mark, in the baptism scene, like the dove descending from the heavens and like sort of landing on Jesus was like this very typological thing that happened in Greek mythology of representing the God descending from the heavens and inhabiting or making contact with humans and something like that. So, like looking at it from its different cultural perspectives, I find that to be so fascinating.
Oh, yeah. And that's one of the things I've been doing because, in particular, Justin Martyr doesn't ever, or almost ever, refer to the Gospels as Gospels. Instead, he has this other term to call them the Memoirs of the Apostles. And the specific word he uses is the same title that one of Socrates' students uses for his memoirs about Socrates. Have you ever heard of Xenophon?
Yes, I have heard of that one actually.
Yeah, so he had been a student of Socrates for a couple of years, but he goes off on a military mercenary mission, and he's on another continent when Socrates is put to death. So he's not an eyewitness to those things in the same way Plato would have been. But nonetheless, both Plato and Xenophon have a court scene with Socrates there. Only one of them is possibly an eyewitness to things, let alone the actual death of Socrates in prison. But they both write an apology. They both write a symposium, and Justin Martyr also, sorry, Xenophon also has all these other stories of Socrates that he gathered from other people, and it's like, oh, well, Justin Martyr's coming along and saying, oh, our stories about Jesus, they're kind of the same sort of thing as what Xenophon's stories of Socrates are, and everyone's like, oh, well, that shows how like historical they are. Problem is, there's like a couple centuries of scholarship from classicists about Xenophon and like saying, you know what? We think a lot of this shit is made up. This is like the same sort of thing that Socrates is in the dialogues of Plato, where he's a character. And so it's like, we're just telling stories to say, this is what we think Socrates should be like, or here's what he would say on this occasion, rather than actual reportage. So I'm pointing out saying, hey, if this is what Justin Martyr's doing, he's not actually saying how authentic the stories are. He's just saying, hey, this is how we want to tell our story about Jesus.
Right. Yeah, and it comes into like they're just crafting their preferred narrative of the things that they want to teach and the religion that they want to build.
Yes, including how they change it, because I note several examples of where Justin changes the story, claims it's right there in the Gospels, but it's not. Like he says, oh, this, you were mentioning before with the baptism, that a dove comes down to Jesus. Well, one of the things when Jesus is being baptized by John the Baptist is, voice of God coming, dove landing, and things like that. But Justin Martyr says, and also the gospel says that there was fire on the water when Jesus was baptized. And that's not in any manuscript of Mark or Matthew or any of the gospels. It's literally not there. So where's this coming from? It's coming from, it looks like Justin Martyr looking at saying, well, a few verses earlier, John the Baptist is saying, the person who will come after me will baptize you with the Holy Spirit and fire. And it's like, well, in the next later part, we got the Holy Spirit. Got to add some fire in there. We got to make this story fire.
It sounds like a Beavis and Butthead thing, like fire. Sorry,
slightly
that
more
dates
sophisticated,
me.
but close.
Yeah, I was gonna say like fire on the water. I mean, that sounds like a really bad TPUSA event. I mean,
it's okay to have smoke on the water, fire in the sky, but
yeah. But we would like to hear from y'all. We've been laying down a lot of good stuff here tonight. If you disagree with any of it, please call in. The number is 720-619-2288, or there's a web link in the description if you live outside of North America. Aaron, what do you think about the fucked up political climate right now?
all right, bring it down a notch. No, sir, I don't like it.
Yeah.
I'm trying to do my best, bring myself back to a good place. And where is that? Episodes of Ren and Stimpy, apparently. Things were simpler in the 90s when I was a kid, but that's also just pure nostalgia on my part. Obviously, things were not perfect in the 1990s, far from it. But I definitely did not imagine the things going on that we have, as I put it elsewhere, federal thugs in the streets and 19th century disease outbreaks. It's so absurd that that is a situation we have. And I really do hope that the national fever is starting to break and we start doing the things that pull us back from the brink, because we've had crazy times in the US before and we've gotten through them. And I'm really hoping that we stop making every single day another historic day in America. We can get back to something that seems a little bit more normal and a little bit more moving forward.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely agree. I just one thing that I'm glad about, I guess maybe a silver lining, is that the House passed that Save America Act, which I think is really not doing anything novel. But the only novel thing that they did was they took out the soft 19th Amendment repeal. Because it had it in there. I don't know if you heard about this, but they had a provision in there where they were going to make you register to vote, or to vote. You either had to have a passport or your birth certificate, and your name on your driver's license had to match those. Right. The problem is that disenfranchises married women. right?
Sure.
And anybody that doesn't have a passport, or maybe they don't have their birth certificate or something like that. And but mostly it would have negatively affected married women. So once you get married, you can no longer vote, is essentially what happens there. And but they took those provisions out. And so it's quite interesting that you've got this massive call from the Christian nationalist right, or nationalist Christian, sorry, the Nazis. Um, you got this call from them to actually repeal the 19th. Well, they can't actually do that, right? Because they would need a constitutional convention and all this other shit in order to do that. So what do? They just soft repeal it, right? By passing laws that effectively nullify it, right? And so it's like, no, they can vote as long as they have their birth certificate changed. But it, like, I don't, like, can you have your birth certificate changed? Like, I feel like that's something that's not normally done, if at all. Oh,
I've
you
never heard
can?
of it.
Okay.
Okay, I've never heard of it, but again, I've not gone to try to find out to change anything. Maybe I'll go back and make myself change some of the numbers and make myself an even bigger baby. I'm told I'm a big baby already, so
Oh yeah. But so we have covered a lot here in this intro, enough to give people something to call in about today. We did have somebody. Oh, we do have somebody in the queue. Do you want to go ahead and take them?
yeah, let's bring them in. So we have the most famous person in all of Christianity, though they say they're an atheist. We got Constantine coming in from Greece, pronouns he, him, and wants to talk about our thoughts affecting reality, or if hallucinations are somehow supernatural. So, Constantine, can you hear us?
Yeah, I can hear you, but not so good. I don't think it's something on your end, but I can't hear you while I'm talking, so I hope that's not a problem. Can you hear me okay?
It's not a problem for
Your
me.
audio is good.
Okay, so yeah, I just wanted to ask, how can thoughts, for example, you have, how can I thought, I guess, when you think about love or something like that, and your body releases chemicals that actually do make you feel better, like how do such thoughts like that and cause actual changes in reality? Like a thought is just a, a pattern of like brain neurons. So how does that, I guess, translate into actual reality? Is my question.
So how do thoughts, like the chemical reactions that cause thoughts to happen, how do those affect reality?
Yeah, like I guess I'm not really educated on how the brain works, so yeah, I don't really know about that, and I'm an atheist, but I am still deconstructing. So this is, I guess, one of the things that they use. People around me still use as an argument to keep me in faith, and yeah, it's pretty much the last one. That's why I called about it, even though I don't know much about it.
Any thoughts there, Aaron?
Well, my first thought is um, my thoughts, my emotions, the chemistry in my head doesn't affect the outside world in any direct way. It can affect my perception of things, but for the stuff inside my head to affect the outside world, it can only do it indirectly by making my arms, go out and then start pushing things around. That's the only way I can think of how my thoughts affect things external to me. And it's also a bit weird because if this is supposed to be an argument for theism or Christianity, it's going to have a bad time because one of the things that we have seen from brain science is that the outside material stuff actually can affect your inner mood, whether it's through medicines that deal with depression or things like that, or even much more violent things. Have you ever heard of a person by the name of Phineas Gage.
Yeah, I actually can understand that because I can kind of understand how stimuli are transferred through electric signals to the brain, but I can't understand how, like, your thoughts release chemicals. That's kind of, how does the brain realize that actual thought translates to a release of chemicals? I don't get it. I guess it's God of the gaps argument, I guess, that I want to get rid of. That's why I ask.
Okay. Well, I'm going to say I don't think John or I are experts on brains. You do not want me cutting open your brain and finding out what happens. I'd be the last person you want to have do that.
Yeah.
Next week, one of our hosts actually does more brain psychology work. Shannon Q. I think she's on next week, so she would answer this better than I can. But I brought up Phineas Gage because this was an example of this famous story of someone basically having a railroad spike go through their head, and they survived it. And people notice, hey, his personality is now significantly changed now that his brain has been affected by this. Like I say, it's kind of crazy, the story of what happened here, but he had a railroad spike basically explode and go through his head. It was taken out and he survived, but the way it ultimately messed with his physical brain actually changed fundamental aspects of his personality. So that's one of the many, many examples that brain scientists have looked to historically to show, hey, change the brain. Here's how people change in terms of what they think, what they say, how they feel. We don't exactly necessarily know like how the whole brain works, but we do see that different parts of the brain have certain things that they focus on, certain functionalities, and in many ways, it's not a perfect analog, but funny enough, the hot thing right now are large language models, which are basically gargantuan neural networks. And the idea of the neural network is based on the neurons in our brain. That was the analog that they learned about in the 1940s and then tried to figure out how we could do that in electronic form. And then we've scaled it up massively to create things like ChatGPT. So there's at least some synonym between what large language models are and what our brain is. It's hardly a perfect analogy, but funny enough, the way we built it was looking at the brain, trying to put it in silico, and what do we get? Multi-billion-dollar industries.
So what? I guess something from my completely uneducated mind. Something akin to this, wouldn't it be like how, for example, in technology we use binary with one and zero, and the DNA uses those letters. Anyways, I don't remember them the top of my head. And what does
ACTG?
Yeah. One in cytosine, whatever the others are, adenine, or what, something akin to that. And also, I actually know them in Greek, so it's kind of hard in English. But anyways, how does the brain actually codify information, if you know?
My basic understanding of how things like memory is stored is you have connections between your neurons, and the strength of that connection carries information. The adage is neurons that fire together wire together. So basically, two neurons are activated at the same time, and that causes them to make stronger connections between themselves. And the strength of that connection stores information. And this is actually fundamentally what we even do with neural networks in computers, where the strength of the connection actually stores information. And we do it with a whole lot of mathematics and a huge data set. So again, it's not a perfect analog, but the strength of connections between neurons is a way of storing information that pops out when you activate neurons in the same way when you're activating neurons in a large language model.
That's fascinating. That points me in a good direction to do some research. I also, if you have the time, wanted to ask a bit about how. So, I guess, how does a thought occur? Like, what happens when you have a thought? These neurons, do they fire off? It's predetermined, isn't it? Is it not?
Is what predetermined? Like what neurons are firing off, or the fact that they fire?
What neurons fire off with what other? Like there has to be some, for example, some neurons that are, I guess, from my understanding, like for motor functions and all that. Some other neurons that do basic thinking, I guess, and all that. Does that have any roots in, like, does quantum mechanics come into play in any of that? And again, I am completely uneducated, so I might just be pulling that out of, So yeah.
Well, I mean, we're not exactly, neuroscientists to be able to give you an in-depth answer on this. What I do know is that like decisions that we make are sort of made before you are aware that you've made them. I'm not sure if that follows along with what you're asking here, but I would say that that's probably the depth of my knowledge, at least of how our brain works. I wouldn't be able to give you a deep explanation of that, but I following what Dr. Aaron Adair just said, I mean, I would call in next week when Shannon's on.
Yeah. But very quickly on the quantum stuff, I'll just quickly answer because I know at least a little bit about that. There is one notable physicist who suggests something quantum related to consciousness, and that's Roger Penrose, who is a Nobel Prize winner and was the teacher of Stephen Hawking. So smart dude, to put it mildly. And he hypothesizes something related to what are called microtubules in the brain, that they're somehow possibly able to maintain some sort of a extended quantum state, and then that collapsing somehow is part of consciousness or creativity. It's one of his hypotheses, but from what I understand, it's not necessarily driving a lot of new insight, and the biggest problem is for the quantum stuff to happen, you usually need to have things in really delicate, quiet, cold situations. And when I say cold, I mean close to absolute zero. And usually you can only do this at small scales. So for example, there are all these efforts right now to build quantum computers. And to do that, they have to create designs that are rather small and very close to absolute zero. And nobody better be anywhere near bumping this thing, which is the exact opposite of the brain, where it's big, hot, it's getting bounced around all the time. A quantum state really, there's no expectation that it would actually last any more than like the tiniest fractions of a second, not long enough to do anything related to us having this kind of conversation. So I'm dubious that quantum mechanics will answer the question of what consciousness is. But there's at least one physicist who is pushing that idea, and he's deserving of much more accolades in doing physics than I do. So listen to him, but don't necessarily believe him.
Yeah, I mainly had this thought, this line of questioning when it came to free will. Like, what I thought, my initial thoughts, again, as fully uneducated, were that because there's funkiness with quantum mechanics, and something can be both like dead or alive at the same time, and things can be both wave and particles and all that. I thought I had an idea in my head that maybe because everything is made out of quarks and is basically everything interacts in the quantum field, something something about the weird nature of quarks could explain, I guess, or rather solve the big issue that many people have about free will, that every thought is predetermined. And maybe I had it in my mind, like, if it was actually random, like some quantum stuff are, it would kind of solve that. Is it completely crazy, or is it kind of like making sense to you guys?
I won't say crazy. I just think, well, there's two things to this. One, when it comes to quantum weirdness stuff, anything going on in the quarks is almost certainly not going to materialize at the brain level, because everything happening with quarks is like inside the nucleus, and all the stuff that how brains like signal is through electromagnetism. So basically electrons and what they're doing. So pretty much everything in the nucleus with quarks is pretty much irrelevant to chemistry in terms of what might be going on with the brain. But also when it comes to free will, if free will is just stuff is random, that's not the free will you want. Because imagine this, Constantine. If normally you like chocolate and I, your new best friend, go and give you a piece of chocolate, if your will is free, as in it's random, then I give this piece of chocolate, but then just a random flip in your brain, and now all of a sudden you hate chocolate, now you hate me. Is that the sort of free will you want? Or does that sound like you just now have absolutely no control? Because all of a sudden, everything you like or not like just flips like at the drop of a hat. That sounds scary, actually.
Yeah, I guess I didn't think of it like that. I thought like maybe it had something to do in the formation of the brain initially, and yeah, you stay consistent after that. But yeah, I guess you're very correct on that. Thank you. Yeah,
All
I guess those were my questions.
Okay. Well, really,
can you hear me?
Really?
Yes.
Yeah, I just wanted to, those were my questions, and I wanted to thank you very much for what you do. You mean a lot to people, even in Europe.
No, yeah, thank you so much there, Constantine. We really appreciate you calling in. I feel bad that I can't give you better answers from my end, but I'm glad that Dr. Adair was here to be able to field, some of the questions about the quantum stuff. If you want to know how is it best to design and implement a computer system, I could probably help you with that. But that's the extent of my knowledge there. Or if you wanted to debate some kind of Bible stuff, I'm decent at that. But really appreciate you calling in there, Constantine.
Yes, thank you very much. Have a great day.
All right, you do the same. I hope you'll call in the future. He probably didn't hear me. All right. Well, first call in the bag. If you would like to challenge us on whether or not Jesus can overcome science, or if science overcomes Jesus, obviously science is going to beat out Jesus every time. But if you want to call in and try to prove that Jesus is adhering to some kind of science, or that science can prove Jesus or the Bible or anything like that, the number is 720-619-2288, or there's a web link in the description. But just to let you guys know about what's coming up this week here on the line, we've got tomorrow at 6 p.m. Central, it's Alyssa Lube and Promise that's on Chewed Gum. And then we've got Matt Dillahunty and Ian Harris on The Hang Up at 6 p.m. on Wednesday. And then TACIS at 2 p.m. Central, we've got Ben and Josie. And then we've got a Cus I Wanna with Forrest and Cynthia. And then we've got a Cus I Wanna on, Friday's Cus I Wanna at 6 p.m. is Forrest and Cynthia. And then Saturday's Cus I Wanna is Justin and Sarah. And then we're going to be having our normal 2 shows on Sunday. The first show was Matt Dillahunty and Shannon. And then the After Dark show is Forrest and Paul. So we've got a lot of great people coming up on the line this week. I hope that you'll tune in to those shows. We do have another caller queued up, but we do need theist callers. If you're in the chat right now and you are a theist and you want to challenge us on Jesus, God, or anything like that, like, I don't know about Aaron, but I think that Christianity is morally deplorable. And I don't think that it's any good for society. I also don't think that Jesus existed. Dr. Adair is also in that same boat. You want to discuss any of those topics on top of whether or not Jesus can defeat science? We would love to talk to you. So let's get to Micah from California.
Hello.
Micah, what's going on?
Not much. What's going on with you guys?
Nothing much. I did, though, forget to tell everybody to smash that like button right now so that we can get some new callers in there. There's also a react button there on the live chat. If you smash any of those buttons for a 30-second straight, I'm sure that we'll get somebody up in here that's a theist. But we are talking to you right now, Micah, and we'd love to know what you want to talk about.
Well, I was just basically calling. I'm kind of worried about our current government and the way things are running, and really what can a lame person like myself do, if that's the right word, to help change things.
Well, so in my opinion, the best thing that you can do is, if you feel so compelled to get out and protest, please do it safely, and make sure you protest peacefully. Don't get into any altercations with people. We definitely want you to be safe if indeed you want to get out there and protest. Protest is one of your constitutional rights that definitely lets everybody know that you're not going to stand up for it. Another way that you can have a positive effect is to attend any meetings that are going on, like town halls, or if there's any kind of public comments being made about some Christian nationalist policy or bill or something like that that's being pushed through. Making your voice known there can also have a pretty profound effect. But that, and then voting. Voting is the biggest thing. Don't be a fence sitter. I mean, it's very obvious the choices that we have this election cycle. It's Nazis or democracy is essentially what the choice is. There's no third party in this particular situation. If you vote third party, you're basically setting up the system for the Republicans to win in this particular situation. Well, the Nazis to win, and you don't want to let the Nazis win. And the best way that you can make sure that they don't win is to vote for the Democrats, who are, sadly enough, not left enough. But at least they're not Nazis. Maybe barely, but at least they're not Nazis.
Just to quickly add to that as well, because what John said, everything was very good, but also when it comes to activism, remember, you can also run for these offices, not necessarily senator or House representative, but school board. If you got kids in school, yeah, you can actually run to be on the school board. And guess what? If you're not doing it, somebody else is, and they're probably the kind of person that you would not have wanted to vote for. The best way to make your voice heard is being the loudest voice in the room by being on those boards.
Okay. All right. Well, I hear all that. I do vote. Yes, I agree with you 100% on Nazis or Democrats. But, if I kind of like to listen to what everybody's saying and go with the person I feel would be best for our country. But in the same sense, I didn't think everybody was going to vote for Trump the second term, and they did. And I wasn't one of them. I did not vote for that guy either time. But
well, that's good.
How can you feel good about the second term? How did he get back in? It just doesn't seem like the American people could be that dumb.
Well, so they are. Essentially, propaganda is the thing that really got to people. You've got The Republican right, the conservatives, really kind of geared up their propaganda machine. Right, they had propaganda experts that were running these things, and the whole. I think that it can be summarized in just the tact. I don't know what the tactic is called. We could call it probably something like blitzkrieg. But basically, they fire off so many different things that are happening all at once in order to run cover for the real things that are going on. So, like leading up to the 2024 election, you had Donald Trump up there just throwing random shit out left and right, left and right, left and right. And so. When he's throwing out so many different things, like in one hand he's talking about Arnold Palmer's penis, and then in another respect you've got the Project 2025 that says that they want to take away the rights of women. You've got Donald Trump up there talking about sharks and electrified water at the same time that you've got Stephen Miller basically being a vampire. So I mean, you've got so many things that are going on at once. It's hard to focus on any one particular thing, and I think that kind of tactic right there is what really confused people, and they latched on to very specific propagandistic statements that were easy to just sort of grab onto and repeat. And I think that that's essentially what started to convince people. Like the conspiracy theory aspect of it, and this is true of all conspiracy theories, is that there's a nugget of truth to everything, right? Everything a conspiracy theorist says, there's a nugget of truth to it. Where the conspiracy theory comes in and where the blatant bullshit comes in is when they take multiple ones of these nuggets and they string them together and they make a narrative. Right? They make this narrative like they're eating the cats, they're eating the dogs, and everything like that. Like there's nuggets of truth that comprise that story. Like the one nugget of truth was there was a video of somebody, I guess, carrying an animal or something like that down a road. Right? That's a nugget. That video actually did exist, except it didn't exist in the same way that they presented it as. Right? They presented it as they're eating the cats, they're eating the dogs. They presented the what was it, the Haitian population as being like illegals and all this other stuff. There was a Haitian population, but it wasn't because they were illegals. It's because, there was a company that recruited people out of Haiti down there. And they were giving them work visas and everything. So like there are nuggets of truth to everything, which makes it hard to combat, right? Because then when you're going to combat the false narrative, you have to say, yes, there were Haitians there and everything like that, but it's not what Donald Trump is saying, and they immediately kick in with that thought stopping process, like you're just lying to me. It's how magnets, how do they work? I don't want to hear from a scientist, kind of thing.
Yeah, I get that, but I mean, the minute the guy said they're eating the dogs or eating the cats, you got to be just really, really, I don't know what the right word is I don't want to offend anybody, but how can you believe that? I mean, it just doesn't happen.
Right. I think there's a simple answer to that. Strangely enough, I think a lot of this is we're taking people at their word about what they believe, where instead they might be saying things because that is what their in-group is supposed to be saying. They may not actually believe these things literally, but they think it, fits some sort of vibe they have. And in general, if it's the sort of thing that, quote unquote, triggers the libs, that's the sort of thing they're going to say that they believe, or whether it's actually something that they would actually, write legislation to fight against or actually pay tax money to deal with. The reality is that unfortunately, people don't necessarily say what they actually believe, and a lot of it is social groupthink sorts of stuff. And it's also worth noting that in that debate, the only debate between Kamala Harris and Trump, the reason it was the only one is that everyone on Trump's team saw, well, this is a shit show. We can't have two more of these debates. And so Trump refused to do any more. And there was no way to force him because they could clearly tell this was going to hurt his poll numbers. So yeah, they did the quote unquote smart thing to say, let's not put the stupid person in front of the microphone next to the lady who can actually speak in complete sentences and knows exactly how to get under his skin because he's rather predictable in those sorts of ways. It's the same thing Clinton had figured out during their debates and knew exactly how to prod him. Even just by calling him Donald, that apparently would trigger him, amongst other things. I'll also note this for 2024. Part of the issue was something that we were seeing globally, in that virtually every country, the incumbents lost. And I look at that in the larger context that it seemed like there was a general trend of who was going to win or lose in these elections. And the unfortunate thing was the Democrats were in control of the White House, so they're the ones who got the blame for things. And this anti-incumbency thing then allowed Air Trump to come back into office, and everyone forget about the fact that a lot of this shit was going down originally badly during the Trump administration. But, you know, that's the thing. When you say things are going bad now, I don't like the person in charge now. Who do I get to vote against? The orange guy? Okay.
Yeah, well, that's not going to happen. Well, but not with his followers. They'll never see him as a bad person, and I don't understand. I mean, I've heard the saying "the masses are asses," and it's kind of true. You know, you get a bunch of people together, and they just they lose their mind. They don't think right. I don't know. You know.
They can definitely say or do things that are not in their individual best interests, but is almost required to be part of the in-group, even if it means saying things that are blatantly false or hurts themselves. I mean, I think a lot of people are now realizing what tariffs actually are by seeing them at their grocery prices and seeing, hey, now coffee is much higher because we decide that we're going to randomly tariff countries about products that we cannot make in the United States. I'm in Massachusetts. Nobody's growing coffee here.
Yeah. See, that's another thing. The tariffs. Everybody. Well, not everybody. A lot of people think that the companies are paying the tariffs, but the companies just hand it over to us, and we pay them. You know, in the grocery stores.
Well, so my opinion on why they won't give up their support for Trump is that Trump is speaking to something that a lot of the conservatives really want, but have never been able to express without suffering social backlash, right? And that's essentially white Christian nationalism, right? I think that Trump has emboldened them to embrace those things. So you have the dehumanizing language. And I think that on some level, a good portion of the maggots out there, they really identify with dehumanizing immigrants, the BIPOC community. Even though some of them are BIPOC in the BIPOC community, they, for whatever reason, they seem to buy into the propaganda about it. And I think that number of people is large enough to convince those that aren't necessarily like supporting white Christian nationalism in that kind of way, but they're enabling, like they're kind of like enablers in that respect. So in my view, they're just as bad as those that actually say the racist things or they do the bigoted things, because they enable them to do that. They run cover for them. They give them excuses and everything, and they make people feel comfortable in accepting those kinds of positions or saying those kinds of things. And you now have people at high levels in our government that are doing crazy ass things, but they're taken seriously because it's the government. Like, you've got the fucking HHS secretary, Dead Bear in Central Park guy, Robert RFK Jr. You got him up there bragging on the internet about how he's not scared of germs because he used to do coke off a toilet seat. I mean, that's the health that's the Health and Human Services secretary. That person should not be ahead of that, especially after he swam in shit creek. You have people in these positions that can give an air of authority to these crazy crank positions, and that's what makes it palpable for people. So this second time around, like the first time Trump getting voted in was bad because they loaded up the Supreme Court, right, with very conservatively. This time it's bad because now Trump has loaded up the entire government with sycophants that are, well, they're not they're sycophants of Trump, but really it's people like Stephen Miller and Steve Bannon and all them, right? That they're sycophants of. That's who they're. People. Yes, the yes people. And so they are just doing things that whoever is behind the scenes puppeting, the orange man wants to do. And they're just going to do them without thought or regard. I mean, I don't know if you saw this week, but JD Vance, he basically, when casting a deciding vote, he had to look off to the side and be like, line, how am I supposed to vote? Line, and like he didn't know how to vote. Yeah, he didn't know how to vote because he's not thinking. He doesn't know what to think about a bill. He doesn't know how a bill is going to affect the American people. All he knows is to vote how he's told to vote. And that's it.
Yeah. Yeah, I see that. We could see that Trump is in bad shape, but I don't know if it's of course, I wish no goodwill to him, but if something bad happened and he was gone, would Vance do any better,
Oh, definitely not. He'd be too focused on the couches.
At the very least, it's hard to know if JD Vance could do worse. I mean, in one sense, he's probably more competent than the current president, but on the other hand, as the kids would say, he's got no riz. So can he actually hold the base together? I don't know. But when it comes to being a prophet, I don't have a great track record, and I don't want to have more egg on my face about that.
Yeah. Well, he went from being a Trump's a terrible person to backing Trump, so it just goes
more
to
than
show
that, he
you
called him Hitler.
Who he is.
I'm a never Trump guy. Trump guy.
Yeah, and then now he's on his knees with Trump,
Oh yeah, he's got Cheeto on the lips for sure.
Yeah, yep. So, well, I guess you guys answered my questions. It's been very nice talking with you guys. My first time ever calling into a talk show. But
hey, Micah,
it was cool.
Yeah, Micah, we really appreciated you calling in. You've been an awesome interlocutor, and we're right there with you with the with the worry for the current administration and what's going on. I worry every day. But the thing I focus on is what I can control, and that's my vote and whether or not I stand up and use my voice against what's going on. And I think that that's the biggest thing that you can do is stand up and use your voice against them. And as long as we keep using our voice against them, they will eventually have to start listening, maybe.
Yes, hopefully everybody joins together and votes the right way this time around.
Well, at least not vote for the Nazis. Like, I mean, I feel like that's a bare minimum that we could ask for, right?
And even when the voting is done,
I agree.
Keep the pressure on, because one of the things that upsets me is that after Biden won, a lot of the legislation we wanted to have go through didn't, because of a couple of usually called centrist Democrats not wanting to overturn the filibuster or things like that, and basically made it so we didn't do enough to make things better. And then, of course, people got pissed off that things weren't getting better. We need to push through what we think are the best policies and hold our representatives' feet to the fire that they actually do what we tell them to do, rather than saying, oh, for decorum, we're going to let the Nazis keep having some level of power or some say in things. It's like, no, it's fascism. This is terrible for the country. This is clearly the way forward, and we're not going to let compromise be the reason that we don't do the right thing.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, this is the worst learning lesson you could ever give anybody, that what we're going through now, but maybe this could be a great learning lesson to say, don't ever vote for another person like this, I'm
going to say 1930s Germany had an even harsher lesson.
Yeah. Well, yeah, also right. The thing I'm worried about, because like I could see, like, so 15 years ago, probably, I would agree with you that, like, yeah, this is a harsh lesson for the American people to learn. They're going to learn it, and hopefully they won't make that mistake again. But obviously that's not true. But I think that the problem now, and the thing that we need to be worried about now, is whether or not Trump and his administration will do enough damage to permanently change our government for the worse, to the point where it's going to take years and years to undo the damage that he's done. I think that it's already occurred, where it's going to take years and years, like multiple different presidents, in order to like change things back, at least getting back to how things were before. And I think that Trump has just ripped out so many of the important chords of American life that it's going to take a lot of hard work to put it all back together.
Yes. Yeah, I agree with that. I definitely do. And I
right, Mike,
also believe that. Oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
No. You go ahead.
Well, I was going to say I also believe that on top of him making it to where it's going to take a long time, if things don't get fixed soon, I don't know this for a fact. Nobody does, but it almost seems like he might be willing to bring a war onto American soil.
I mean, there's always that possibility with it. I mean, with as many foreign entities that he's pissing off, especially our own allies. I mean, I don't know if you saw it recently, but the European, I believe it was the European Union, maybe they actually had a meeting. I think, if I remember correctly, it was in Germany, where they actually had to discuss, well, what are we going to do if fucking Trump goes crazy enough to like start attacking people or something? Like, they had to come up with different strategies for like contingencies for what would happen. So like our allies are already planning for us to turn Axis, right, to turn to be part of the Axis powers. And I think that that's a sign of how far we've fallen as a nation from the global stage.
Yeah. Now, if we get a good person back in office, will people accept us back into the fold?
Not immediately, I think.
Yeah, I don't think immediately, but I also think that it's very much I think it's very much a conservative Trump sort of thing. So like, if we were to vote, a Democrat into office, we might not be accepted back into the fold. There would probably be a lot more guardrails put up, but I think that, we wouldn't get back to the position that we were, but I think that it's very much a conservative, like Trump centered sort of issue right now. And I think that if we as as Americans can rectify that, I think that we can at least be welcomed back into the fold, not to where we were before, because we were kind of leading shit before, right? But I don't think that we would ever be put back in that position again.
And what do you think about Newsom running?
Most of the people that would be popular to run, I probably wouldn't vote for. Like, yeah, I like Newsom's like meme trench game, but I don't know. There's a lot of problematic things, I think, that he's a bit too centrist on. I don't think that he's left enough for me. I'm a leftist, so like I would probably vote for like an AOC ticket. I'd rather vote for an AOC ticket than a Newsom ticket.
That'd be good, but do you think AOC would even run?
I mean, I think that she'll probably eventually try to run, but I'm worried about whether or not the USA is still too misogynistic to allow a woman even a chance to be president.
I believe you're right. I believe the American people just wouldn't allow it to happen. I think it would be great to have a female president, but I don't think the bigoted white Americans would be with that.
I mean, maybe not. Maybe they're not. But I think that, honestly, I think that with what Trump and his administration is doing, if we can rally behind like an actual leftist for the presidency, and start voting for leftists in elections, I think that could be a really good start on sending a massive message and getting things back on track. So, I mean, my opinion is to vote for the leftist in the crowd. But I mean, honestly, it's don't vote for conservatives, but vote for the party that's not conservatives that's going to win, and that's going to be Democrats. But if there's a Democrat that's a leftist in like a primary or something like that, I would vote leftist every time.
But see, I can't vote for a left-leaning Trump. I couldn't vote for that because that would be a bad person, left or right. If Trump was a Democrat, he would be just as bad as a Democrat as a Republican,
No. A leftist is different. I'm not saying like a left conservative. That's like a married bachelor. A leftist is farther left, than the current Democrats, because the Democrats are a bit shit right now.
Okay, so you're saying they're policies, left policies.
Well, yeah. Well, I mean, leftist policies, like whoever's a leftist that's pushing for leftist policies, like single payer healthcare and feeding kids. I know that's like that shouldn't be like a leftist policy. That should be like bipartisan. But like feeding the kids, like lunch debt should just not be a fucking thing. Like that just shouldn't be a thing. Just feed the fucking kids, as my wife would say.
Yeah, kids should be free. For kids' lunches should be free. Healthcare should be free, in my opinion, and I believe lots of things like that.
Yeah, so I mean, I guess I'm just the only thing that I'm saying is that if you can vote for the leftist ticket, definitely vote for the leftist ticket. If there's no leftist ticket, then vote blue, is what I would say, because all of the conservatives seem to be running. Not all. Okay, I hate to say not all, because there are a few conservatives that are definitely pushing back against Trump. Like there's Thomas Massey. He had to put out a message that was basically warding off any potential, suicide actions for him. Like in case he comes up and they rule it a suicide, that he's been offed. He's like, I'm not feeling depressed. I don't own a pool. And he's like saying every single thing that could possibly kill him. Yeah, and so I think
he believes his life might be in jeopardy.
Yeah,
that's crazy.
And unfortunately, it's not unreasonable considering, what was it? Nancy Pelosi's husband was nearly murdered in the Pelosi's home by some crazy guy with a hammer. And of course, there have been multiple assassination attempts against the current president. And January 6th was a giant mob setting up a gallows to hang the vice president for not overturning the election. So there's unfortunately active political violence, and to not notice that, and especially going after all the Epstein stuff, and Epstein's death being unexpected in ways that makes it look like I'm not going down the conspiracy route, but the fact is like, oh, the tape is missing. Oh, there's no way he should have been able to commit suicide. Oh, he just happens to be hanging there now. It's like, okay, clearly people have screwed up, and if they're willing to let people screw up here because it's not good for the current administration, who knows what accidents are going to happen for other sitting members. Clearly, I would not put anything past this current administration and their abilities to either fuck things up or fuck us over in order to get the power they want.
Or keep the power.
Exactly.
Yep. All right, Micah. Well, it was good talking to you. And, we're right there with you and everything. And I hope that you have a good night, okay?
Thank you.
All right.
I saw in the comments.
Okay,
I saw in the comments somebody noted that J.D. Vance would try to reestablish the Ottoman Empire, and I just realized, oh no, you definitely would not want to be an Ottoman if J.D. Vance was running the country.
Nope. You definitely wouldn't. All right, so we do have all lines open. There are 7% of people in the comments there that think that Christianity is good for society, and you are just really, really wrong about that. And we would really love for you to call in. And I'm gonna try to figure out. Let's see, what's 7% of 22407? That is nearly 16 individuals, and there's 632 people watching. There's got to be somebody in there that thinks Christianity is good for society. Come on. I know that you're out there. You've got even an atheist is like, well, there's some good things in Christianity, something. But I don't know. So, Dr. Adair, what is your take on the question of whether or not Christianity is good for society?
I have absolutely met good and wonderful Christians. And I think when people are good and wonderful, it's not because of the religion or the propositions of religion. It's because of things that are more fundamental about them and the fact that we have a society that actually emphasizes things that we consider part of the Enlightenment. The big ideas of equality and justice and reason as our ways of adjudicating things and listening to each other is not something that you derive from Christianity. In fact, in many ways, it's despite it. The fact of the matter is, for the longest time, many a king and pope have derived their power from their interpretation of the Holy Book. Many people have been held in bondage because of statements allegedly by St. Paul. Boy, oh boy, have we had to find excusegetics to not see those as the evil things that they are. And we've only gotten things better because of other values that we have, and then forced Christianity to fit those values. So I would say Christianity on its own doesn't have anything that I would say is actually of unique positive value, and everything that we have good we can find elsewhere and better in other sources.
No, I totally agree with that analysis of it. Owen and I did a show last night where we discussed this topic, and there's like a lot of macro issues that come into play whenever you're considering Christianity and its effect on society. There are some people that want to try to point out individual things that are good, like it improves mental health or something like that, without actually looking deeper into that particular statistic and what causes those things, because it's more about the provision of community rather than anything that's actually in Christianity. So like if you had secular sources or secular institutions that were providing that community too, then you would see similar benefits. And we just couldn't get one guy to actually see that particular issue. But there's a lot of things like as far as like what SkepTalk is usually about science. Christianity has been one of the major sources for stifling scientific progress. It stifles progress in like health science and health care in general. And not a lot of people think about that. They don't think about the negative consequences of Christianity on the health environment.
Yeah, and I get the feeling SkepTalk wouldn't have as much to talk about if every other theist caller coming in was saying how evolution isn't true. That argument only exists because of religious creationism.
Right. Oh, speaking of creationism, that's another thing that, gets overlooked is the fact that the Christian nationalists, they want to push creationism into schools. They want it to be taught alongside evolution and other real scientific, paradigms.
Yeah. And of course, that also means to the audience, there's got to be at least one creationist listening right now. And I'm pretty sure you want to defend yourselves against this godless engineer. What does he know about engineering? Without God, he can't possibly, program computers or put gears together. And I'm a doctor of evil because I believe in evolution. Prove us wrong. Come on, call in and tell us how you know that creationism is true. Or maybe you think ghosts are real or Bigfoot is real. Those are topics that we also can and do talk about. If you think Bigfoot is a ghost, I want to talk to you.
We do actually have a caller queued up. Do you want to take him?
Absolutely. Let's go.
All right. So we've got Michael calling in from, I believe that's, is that Virginia?
Yes.
Yeah. Hey guys.
Hey, Michael, how you doing?
Am I?
You're on the line.
I'm doing well.
So what's up?
I just want to say I'm big fans. I've been watching your guys' content. Discovered you today actually, but I don't want to take up too much time. I am a Roman Catholic for context, but I think probably to the unfortunate surprise of many, I agree with you guys. I do think Christianity is bad for society, and I find that very unfortunate, but I'm not blind to the reality. But what I really wanted to ask you guys is, do you think that faith as a concept as a whole is bad for society in general? Or do you think there are instances where faith could be beneficial to society?
Could you maybe define what you mean by faith? And it's not because we don't know, it's because everybody has their own sort of understanding of it.
Okay, I would define faith as in faith in a higher power.
No, well, I understand you mean faith in a higher power. That's not what I mean by faith. So there's unjustified faith, or some people claim that there's evidentially justified faith. Well, I mean, I guess there technically is, because like I have faith that my car is going to start tomorrow because my car is in fine working order, and I expect it to start because there's no reason for it not to start, right? So in that particular respect, I have what we could call faith, because I don't have anything to the contrary for me to expect it not to start. But if you're talking about unjustified faith, or like blind faith is what you could call it, it's believing in something without good evidence for that reason. It's very different than my car analogy here, because I have good reasons to expect I have good reasons to expect my car to start. I don't have good reasons to believe a God exists.
Okay, I got you. I'm sorry about that. I would definitely say religion qualifies as unjustified faith. So I would ask you, do you think unjustified faith is always a net negative for society?
Yes. I don't know. Aaron, what do you think? Sorry, I answered real quick.
Yeah. I at least can't think of a good, sustainable way of saying we should believe things, not only that don't have good reasons, but good reasons not to believe them. That seems like, even if for some temporary thing to get things to work, long term, that's not going to succeed.
Okay. Yeah, I'm sorry, guys. I didn't really have an argument. I just really wanted to ask because I like to think about these things. So I really appreciate you taking the time to answer.
Yeah, sure. No problem. Did you maybe want to talk about why you believe in God, or do you need to go?
No, I'm good. I just believe in God. I think a lot of people kind of come from the angle of like, oh, I believe in God because it's good and all that. But I very specifically believe in God because to me it is comforting to know that as an individual, I am never truly alone in my experiences, right?
That sounds horrible to me.
Yeah, I do understand how it sounds, pretty upsetting, but to me it is a comfort. And like I'm not trying to convert anyone to my religion or convince anyone in the existence of God. I'm very comfortable in my faith, but I'm also very comfortable with the faith of others or the lack of faith of others. It doesn't really bother me.
Yeah, I mean, I don't mind you being Christian. I'm perfectly fine. Like, as long as you're not trying to force your faith on other people, like, I really don't care. But I mean, I am rather bothered that you're a Roman Catholic, considering that's a pedophile criminal organization.
Oh, I agree with you. Like, don't get me wrong. I totally agree with you. And I am not at all, honestly, I'm not very well liked by other Roman Catholics. Have you ever heard the expression, there's no hate like Christian love?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I feel it every day.
I do too. And it's just kind of an unfortunate reality. It's why I really think you guys are on point with saying that Christianity is bad for society. And I really hope that the other people who call in after me debating that point can be, turned in the right direction.
Okay.
Michael,
Yeah.
I have to say, to me, it sounds like the term might be used that you'd be a cafeteria Catholic, or in other words, a normal Catholic.
Yeah, it's I'm still trying to figure it out. There are a lot of
Yeah.
Catholic
Well, what I
ideologies
mean by
that
that
I
is like
honestly
everyone kind of
find.
does picking and choosing, but especially in uh, my impression of growing up Catholic, having Catholic friends, family, things like that, a lot of it is basically this is just the stuff we do. Do we actually go around and beat our chests in belief of it versus this is why we choose the wrapping paper we have? It feels like that's a lot of
Yeah,
what
no,
religion and especially Catholicism is. That's like the term cafeteria Catholic captures so well.
yeah, no, and I agree with you. Honestly, when I was growing up, that's how Roman Catholicism was described to me. But now that I'm older, it's definitely not.
Mm.
Okay.
Yeah, no, I definitely would describe myself as a pick and chooser. But yeah, thank you guys. I
All
appreciate you
right.
taking the time to talk to me.
All right. Well,
You have a
thank
great
you
night.
for calling up. Yeah. Yeah. You do the same now.
All right, ciao.
Bye. Oh, just okay. So, we do have another caller, V from the, are you good to go ahead and jump into the next call there, Aaron?
Yeah, good for another one.
All right. Both people that we have in queue right now are atheists. We'd really love some theists to call up and have a discussion with us about whether or not Christianity is good for society. If you think that your faith is actually good for society and you think that it's the only way forward for American society or whatever society you're in, definitely call in and defend that position. 720-619-2288 or use that web link in the description. We've got V calling in from the UK. What's up, V? You're on the line.
Hello. How are you doing?
Good. How you doing?
Sleepy. It's like 1 a.m. in UK.
Yeah, it's late, huh?
Yeah, this is the problem I always face with the line. I love listening to the line. I love watching, and I love to call in, but it is always a bit of a problem to call in the night.
I would say come and move over to the US, and then the time works out much better.
It would make it easier in regards to the line. I think I would, at the moment, prefer to stay in the UK, unfortunately, with everything happening. But
Understood. The US is not your cup of tea. I understand.
No, not my cup of tea. No, and that's a very big discussion. But there's a lot of that happening on the line anyway. What I did want to say is I find the title of the stream quite interesting, with Christianity being false and harmful, because I called in a while back, and I was talking about how my mom was thinking about converting to Christianity, and I think that there are definitely things in Christianity that can be beneficial. I think it's more about how people choose to carry out their faith. Like if I hold the belief that as long as people don't push their beliefs on me, I don't really mind. Like especially with religion.
So if I can push back real quick, can you name something that's in Christianity that you can't get outside Christianity from like a better source that doesn't carry all of the negative connotations that come with Christian theology?
So I'm probably going to say no, and that's the thing I was going to bring up as well. There are obviously, like, one of the things I was going to say is alcohol, for example. As far as I understand, alcohol, to the best of my knowledge, most Christians believe that alcohol is not it's a sin. If I'm getting that correct, please correct me if I'm wrong.
Well, I don't know, considering that Jesus's blood is literally wine and he went to a wedding and he turned water into wine, I'm not sure why they would think it's bad.
At the very least, I think what we want to do is say what's something specific to Christianity that we would say is good? Besides, if we want like, strict, or I shouldn't say strict, but much more explicit non-alcohol consumption, you would go with Islam.
Yes, yeah, sorry, I'm being very slow tonight. Yeah, alcohol is probably a bad example. Like, as a very basic example, let's say murder. Obviously, it's like any moral person should know that murder is wrong. But if a person commits murder, goes to prison, and finds their way to Jesus Christ somehow, and that helps them to somehow stay more moral and stay off of murder, I don't mind it. Like, obviously, we should be pushing for that understanding outside of religion, and the religion shouldn't be the cause of those morals. But I think if religion helps people find those morals, I don't see what's wrong with taking that route.
I would say that's a big if. When I say if, I mean not that people become religious and that they change something about themselves. I'm very happy to believe that is true. But is it the case that only religion can do that, or only specific religions can do that? That I don't think we have good reason to believe.
I think I would agree with that. Like I said, I don't think I'm personally agnostic. I have my own morals, and I think a lot of the things that people say Christianity is good for can be found outside of religion. One good example of that is like community. A lot of Christians like to say that their community is very strong, and that's one of the reasons why my mom wanted to convert. Is for the routine of going to the church, being with the same people, like building a nice community. And actually, I found through the line that there are better ways outside of religion to do that. But if it helps a person to stay upbeat in hard times, to find that community through religion, I mean, I don't see why they shouldn't be allowed to do that. I would 100% agree with you. There is not, to the best of my knowledge, there's not really a single thing in Christianity that is positive that you can't find outside of it. But it's a really big ask of people to just give up Christianity entirely if they've lived with it their whole life. And I know that there's a lot of people on the line that did that, but it's a big change. It's a really big change.
Well, I would say, especially here in America, like most people that are atheists, well, maybe I shouldn't say most people. There's a fairly large number of people that were previously Christian. So I mean, like, we had to do that. I mean, so I guess I don't understand why that's an undue burden on somebody. Like for instance, if you were to tell me that, that somebody that I idolized raped a 14-year-old child, I would no longer idolize that person. I would not take any kind of life advice from them. I would not take any moral direction from them. Even if I had built my entire persona off of them or something like I developed my entire moral foundation off of them. If I found out that they actually sexually assaulted a 14-year-old child, I would totally drop them immediately.
I do see your point, and I think the best way, like kind of linking to that, the best way I've heard someone describe, I guess, the quote-unquote purpose of Christianity and religion as a whole is back in the days, there wasn't really a really easy way to get people convinced of moral systems, and Christianity came in as a way to kind of force morals onto people and improve the world.
Force, yes.
There's a lot
it wasn't the case that prior to 30 AD, nobody had a moral compass or methods of enforcing systems of morality. I think one of the things I do want to note here about something that I would say secular groups have failed on that religious people have done better, but is not an excuse to keep religion going, Does religion create community? Yes. Can you have community outside of religion? Absolutely. So saying that the community already exists there based on religion and just letting it be, I don't think is a good thing to do, because it's fundamentally built on things that just aren't true and are either deceptive or even delusional. And fact of the matter is, delusional beliefs don't get better just by letting them stay put. It's basically reinforcing the delusion to the point that we now have, especially here in the good old USA, Christian nationalism, and thinking that we should be using this as a power to wield against others in the most terrible of ways. And of course, V, you're coming from the UK, and boy, oh boy, was there many a colonist came to other countries and said, we need to civilize and Christianize these backwards people. And if they have to lose a few limbs in the process to learn their lessons, so be it. And well, I don't think the world is better because of that. The world has gotten better in many ways despite those things. So I would say what we need to be doing isn't just to say, these people already believe it, let it go. I thought is, let's create community so people can feel comfortable to let go and try to do more to embrace reality. And even when reality is harsh and cold to us, that we've created some semblance of community and society that keeps things a little bit warmer without lying to ourselves about how things really work.
I quite like that approach, honestly. Like, but I feel like doing that in a I guess passive way would be quite difficult, I think, because I mean, you probably know best that once a person believes something, it's very, very difficult to convince them otherwise. And
that's why we're not passive here. If anything, this is literal atheist activism, this entire channel here on YouTube. This is us trying to be active in changing people's minds and trying to create, at least online, some level of community. We will not passively make the world better. We do have to get off of our chairs and do stuff in meat space to make the world better.
So by passive, I mean unforced. So you're still always giving people the choice. Is what I mean. That I should clarify.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, you
I will only
quite
wrestle with them
mentally.
I'm not going to physically wrestle someone out of a religion.
You know, of course, because that's the other thing I was going to say is I might be quite naive, but I like to believe that if a person has a certain belief, I don't mind their belief as long as it's not forced on me and it doesn't influence me directly. And I guess it's reasonable for other people to expect that as well, and I try to live by that. And it could be quite naive to just say like everybody believes their own thing, they live separately. And I've started to notice that more and more with Christianity, actually. And I guess I do kind of want to see more people realize certain things about Christianity, but I don't know how to myself sort of start having the conversations that you're having, because I have tried, and a lot of the time it has not come out to very good results.
I'm sorry, you've tried what and it hasn't come out with a very good result?
Like having the conversations that you guys are having on the line, or I guess similar style debates, like talking about the Bible, talking about Christianity, like more in depth, rather than just on. Yeah, sorry.
Well, I mean, I guess what I was more asking is, like, can you give me an example? Like, how has it not turned out well? Like, have they started yelling at you? Did they get frustrated and walk away? Was it like a family member that now no longer talks to you or something?
So, this is a really, really weird example for me. But it was a close friend. He said that he's Christian. I asked, like, oh, what sort of Christian? Like, what do you believe? And essentially, we had like 2 or 3 hour conversation, which they like boiled down to he doesn't believe in the Bible he believes in the Christian morals, and it was so difficult for me to explain to him, like, that's not, like, to me that doesn't really sound like you're really Christian. He doesn't believe in Jesus. He doesn't believe in God. He believes in the Christian morals, and that's so
Right.
to me.
Yeah, I think that's just so you know, I think that they typically call that cultural Christianity, where they don't believe like in the religion itself, but they believe in some of the teachings. They cherry pick from the teachings, different things that they align with. And personally, I don't see why they need to do that, because they don't need to do it. But they can obviously just take up those particular aspects they like, and they just take up those aspects. Like they don't have to attribute it like to Christianity or anything, because I can guarantee you the things that they latched onto are not things that were, unique to Christianity.
I would actually say that it goes against Christianity, because they were gender fluid, and I mean, even at that point, it already kind of seems edgy to call, not edgy, but kind of shady to call it Christianity, even if it's cultural Christianity. I'm going to roll with that term. That's a really good term. But there was I know that person quite well, and they are not the type of person that I would typically call Christian.
Okay. No,
So
I
do
mean,
agree with you in the sense that I don't see why they couldn't get those morals from elsewhere.
right. No, I mean, I totally get you on that one. Not seeing them as Christian, although I would caution against the no true Scotsman fallacy, because I mean, it's tough. But I don't think that you're necessarily committing that particular fallacy, because if they don't believe in Jesus Christ, then it is kind of hard to say that you're a Christian, right? Because that's one of the core, things about being Christian, is that you believe in Jesus Christ, you follow his commands and everything like that, and you think that he's the only way to heaven, or he's the one. He's the only route to heaven, or something like that, is typically how Christians are defined. And so, I mean, I don't think that you're committing that fallacy necessarily. I just would make sure you're very careful about that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. We'll take. There was another situation with another really close friend. It's in uni, and in university we tried to kind of get close with the people from our course to move in together to make it easier to pay for rent. And we actually had one of our we were really close to getting a house together with some mates from my course, but one of them is a Christian girl whose parents just didn't allow her to move in with boys. And that screwed us over big time. So that's the side of Christianity that I don't fully understand. Although I guess you could say that it's not like Christianity exclusive, but I feel like it does. This idea does come up with Christianity a bit more than with atheists. I feel like atheists would be a bit more open to
that. Yeah, probably. Sorry, I was just sitting here thinking about what advice I can give you for like having better conversations. And the best thing, if you're going to be having conversations with people that are close to you, the best thing that I can suggest for you is to watch a bunch of street epistemology videos. They like Anthony Magnabosco is a good one to watch. He hasn't put out content in a few years, I don't think, but he's got a great library of how to interact with people on these kinds of tough questions without them getting like upset with you, and he really teaches you how to ask questions that make the person question the things themselves. And so that would be my advice for having those kinds of conversations right there.
All right. Yeah. I do. I will look into that. Sorry, it was street epistemology.
Yes, street epistemology, and it's Anthony Magnabosco. Yeah, it's pretty phonetic in its spelling there.
Yeah. found it. Thank you. I will look into that because I do. Weirdly enough, I do find myself in a lot of like Christian surroundings, and it is always interesting to see because these are very reasonable people. I feel like I could have some discussions with them to see how they feel a little bit about some of the interesting stories I've heard from the Bible. Many stories.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you for that.
All right. Were there any other questions that you had for us tonight?
Not really. One thing I was going to say is I don't think you can really say that Christianity is false, just because you can't say it's true either. So, but that's a very picky point. I don't really feel like you're probably going to want to really debate on that or discuss that.
I mean, I definitely, I definitely think that Christianity was false.
It at least claims things that we know are false.
Yeah.
I think there are definitely things within Christianity that are false. I probably would say that the Bible is false from everything that I've heard online and other sources, but I don't know if you can say that Christianity itself is false.
Yeah, I mean, so I actually have a pretty solid argument for Christianity being false just based on, the claims of Christianity. Do you want to hear it?
I would love to. Yes, yeah, of course.
Okay, so I guess in kind of a syllogistic form, if the God of the Bible exists, then he's the triomni God, right? He's omnibenevolent, omnipotent, and omniscient, right? Premise 2 would be raping a 14-year-old child is completely and wholly immoral, and anybody that's omnipotent, omniscient, and omnibenevolent would not either take part in raping a 14-year-old child or set up a system that would facilitate the raping of a 14-year-old child. Premise 3 would be God directly rapes Mary in Luke 1:27-38. Conclusion, the God of the Bible cannot exist because he violates the law of non-contradiction. He violates the triomni properties because he raped a child.
Right. That is really difficult to argue with, and I'm probably not the best person to argue against that. The thing I have heard people say is that we don't know if that leads to greater good than the evil it creates. So the net good created would be higher because Jesus. Oh God. I'm not really ready to go into that argument.
I know the kind of argument. I know the kind of argument you're trying to make here to play devil's advocate, even though you're doing it for the anti-devil. But even with that approach, you would still have to say that as for this to still be the moral thing to do, if even somehow rape somehow led to a greater good, which, I don't even want to say that sentence, but even if we do that, you still have to then say that is the only way to have achieved that greater good. And that is simply not the case. Obviously, Jesus could have entered the world even miraculously without knocking up anyone. He could have just popped on the surface of the earth. He didn't have to inseminate a young woman. So even that approach still requires saying, well, why did God have to do it that way? And if he doesn't have to, but then chose to do the thing that we would say is not a grape idea, that is, it's exactly the sort of thing that leads to this moral conundrum. If God has chosen a bad thing when he could have done otherwise, it's immoral.
That is a really good point to make. I haven't really considered the fact that there was Jesus didn't really need to be born. He could have just been kind of popped into existence. That is a thing for me to think about. But
yeah,
so
I mean,
you're
after all,
saying
Adam was
essentially
somehow made
because
from mud, so God could have just gotten some more mud and made himself a Jesus that way, or just have him pop up like a rock from in Chinese mythology.
Right, Philo of
God got
Alexandria.
lazy with Jesus.
Well, Philo of Alexandria, I actually think he has a passage where he claims that Moses was actually given a divine body. So, like, Moses wasn't technically born; he was given a manufactured body. So, like, yeah, God. If God's omnipotent, then he would be able. Like, there's no problem with fabricating a body, like right there. Whether he palmed David's seed or not, like he could. He could open up one of those warlock portals, like from Doctor Strange. He could be like, reached out, got some seed, came back, like it. I mean, it'd be really simple. When it's magic, I ain't got to explain shit kind of thing,
He really didn't have to impregnate anyone when you think about it. But that's a really valid point. So you're saying essentially because omnipotent, benevolent, and omnipresent God can't exist, omnipowerful can't exist, Christianity has to be false.
Well, it's due to, so that's just one particular argument using like the one instance of grape. I mean, you could use that for any immoral action that God commands. If you could use it for like Numbers 31. You could just replace the raping of Mary. You could replace that with instituting the sexual slavery of children. Like you could take, it's pretty much a cut and paste kind of thing. Take whatever deplorable action God has taken and put it in the syllogism, and it proves that God can't exist because he violates the law of non-contradiction.
Okay, yeah, fair enough. Like I said, I'm agnostic, so I 100% don't believe in the Christian God, or anything close to the Christian God. I think maybe agnostic is even a bit of a push in like describing my faith, but that's a black box that I haven't myself opened yet. So thank you. That is some good points that I will probably think about on the side. As far as I remember, the two of you also don't believe that Jesus was a real person, right?
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. All right. I mean, fair enough. Thank you, guys. You probably have other calls on the line. I'm not going to take too much of your time anymore. I do appreciate the sources, Anthony McNabosco. We'll do that.
Yeah, no, thank you so much for calling in. We really appreciate you. I had a really good conversation with you. I hope that you'll call again. I know that it's incredibly late for you. So if you have any questions, feel free to call in. We'd love to hear from you sometime in the future. Okay.
Yeah, thank you guys. We'll probably try to. Enjoy the rest of the night.
All right. See you later, V.
Cheers.
Oh, I'm so sorry. That wasn't a finger slip. I thought that he was done. That's my bad. Remember the 5th of November there, bud. So we do have 2 calls left on the line here, and they're both mythicist calls. So I'm excited about that.
Well, it's a bit interesting because there is a poll going on in the chat right now, and it's a poll about, was Jesus a dude? And apparently we're winning right now in terms of mythicism. About 80% say no, but 2% said yes, and they will call in. So we have at least a couple people that are willing to say at least 2 people, because it's 2% of 116 said yes, and they will call in. So those non-mythicists better be calling in and telling us why we are so wrong.
Yeah, I agree. And the 18% that responded, of course, but they don't want to defend it. You know what? I wouldn't want to do that either. All right. So we got Cedric next. who is a mythicist and wants some better counter arguments. So let's go, Cedric. How you doing? You're on the line.
I'm doing okay. How are you guys?
Doing all right.
Mhm.
As Forrest would say, never had a bad day, but I have had bad days.
Yeah, it's actually sunny up here right now. It's been pretty cloudy for the past month, so.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Lucky you. It was raining
Anyway.
here. God cried on Alabama today.
Oh dear. I mean, it was snowing a couple days ago, so.
No, that's fine. All right. So you're a mythicist and you want some better counter arguments. Could you elaborate a little bit on, kind of what you're asking?
Well, like I've seen a bunch, like there's, Bart Ehrman and other scholars who do assert that there was a guy named Jesus running around in the first century of the Gregorian calendar. But I was wondering if you guys knew anything about any like good counter arguments to the mythicist position, just so I could investigate like how those, just investigate them.
I don't know. Aaron, do you have any thoughts on that?
Well, quite honestly, I think the best arguments against mythicism is going to be on how you interpret the letters of Paul, because especially in Galatians, where Paul talks about meeting a brother of the Lord, and if you treat that as biological, then they're saying that Jesus has biological brothers. And now, John and I have gone through this argument with people before, but when it comes to the evidence out there, that's probably the best easy thing to point to. Say, hey, in our earliest records of the Christian religion, people are talking about meeting a biological brother of Jesus, and if he has brothers, then he must have existed. That at least is an argument worth having. There are things that complicate that, but that's probably the best kind of argument that's out there right now. That's not the sort of argument Bart makes the most, Bart Ehrman, I should say. He will mention that. He will mention that for Paul, he says that Jesus was a human for him. But a lot of his arguments will also come down to we have all these gospels and they have traditions that are independent of each other. And so, hey, we got all these independent Jesus traditions. Therefore, there must have been a due to explain that. I don't think that's persuasive for several reasons. The arguments about Paul are the most worthwhile for making or breaking mythicism.
Okay.
Sorry, I don't have anything to add. I think that Paul's letters are the strongest pieces of evidence that they have for a real historical Jesus, and I think it's really going to hinge on new information or new interpretations of Paul's letters. So, I'm right there with Aaron.
Okay.
Obviously, also people will bring up Josephus and Tacitus because these are non-Christian references to Jesus, but they are problematic because, especially the stuff from Josephus, we have good reason to think that they are at least partially, if not completely, later fabrications added to the text, which means they aren't useful. But even assuming there's something of Jesus being mentioned in Josephus, then there's still the question of, well, what's his source? And if his source is Christians, then we don't have independent evidence about Jesus. We're just finding out, oh, in the late first century, there were Christians and this is the story they were telling. But we already knew that from the Gospels. So in many ways, arguments about Josephus and Tacitus, they're a wash. They don't really move the needle in any direction.
Yeah. I know that the whole, you have the two things in Josephus, one of which is a forgery and the other one, isn't even talking, it's like Jesus of Damius, not Jesus Christ, if I remember correctly.
Well, what's happening there, this is in Josephus's Antiquity of the Jews, book 20. He talks about a certain James, a brother of Jesus, and then it says him called the Christ in our manuscripts. And the argument is this actually original to the text? Because if it's original to it, then it's talking about James, Jesus's biological brother or some sort of brother. Then we have the problem of, well, is this person a cultic brother or biological brother? The term is ambiguous. And if Josephus is just repeating what Christians have said, and Christians call each other brothers, everyone is a brother of Jesus in the Christian religion, just like you go to a monastery and they're all brethren, the same sort of thing there fundamentally. So even if the text as is what it is, it's actually what Josephus wrote, we still can't tell if this is actually separate from cultic meanings of brother, but also it's argued by several people now that even this edition, even this part of the text might actually be a later edition, and then it might have been the case that Josephus was talking about James as a brother of Jesus ben Damnius, who's mentioned later in the same text. That's at least a possibility. Someone was arguing also more recently that like the whole thing about even James being a brother of anybody, that whole thing was added in. So there's debates going on. It's still probably a minority position that is an interpolation, but I think interpolation makes sense of the data, and even if it's not, it still doesn't get us past the fact that how does Josephus know any of this sort of stuff told to him by Christians, which means it's not independent of what Christians were already saying at the end of the first century.
Okay.
I should also say the reverse as well. We definitely then lack any first century or eyewitness attestation to Jesus, but we shouldn't use that as an argument to say Jesus didn't exist. If he was a nobody and nobody wrote about him, that's not unexpected. If he was, so important that he was known across multiple countries at once during his ministry, and then when he died, literally the entire earth went into darkness, okay, then that should have been recorded. But if we think he was just some nobody and then a bunch of his later followers started, making up shit about him, that would not have left a noticeable record. So the absence of evidence should not be used as an argument against the historical Jesus. So I want to hit that from both sides.
Okay.
Yeah, so I would say that the minimal mythicist position, which is the position that both Aaron and I take, we first start off with a prior likelihood, right, that Jesus existed as a historical person, and then what we do is we look for evidence to sway that position, that likelihood. And it's not so much that there's no evidence, so he didn't exist. It's more like there's no evidence that sways us away from our initial assessment of the character as he presents, when he first comes on the scene, which is a highly mythologized savior figure of a mystery cult that matches, a certain reference class that's primarily filled with non-historical people. So we would need to find evidence to suggest that he was historical. I don't know. Aaron looks like he disagrees with me on something.
No. I was just seeing something. I was trying to carefully read some text because I'm just seeing, strange enough, in my Facebook feed, seeing something from Mark Goodacre, another well-known New Testament scholar, apparently going to Hong Kong, and I was trying to read the poster, which was in Chinese, so I was squinting a lot. But like
Yeah, I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to call you out like that. But yeah, so it's definitely not that. I don't want people to take away that it's like, oh, there's no evidence, so he didn't exist. It's more like there's no evidence that sways us away from the prior likelihood that he wasn't a historical figure. Because what essentially what the claim is that Christianity was the outlier in this time period, in this region, in the Mediterranean, for these mystery cults. It was an outlier religion that actually did have a historical figure at the center of it, as opposed to every other mystery cult out there that did not. And so we would need to find evidence to actually support that outlier claim. And until we can find that, I just don't see any reason to believe he was a historical figure.
Yeah.
All right. Did you have any other
not
questions for us? Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
On the one hand, I'm not as familiar with Tacitus, and I want to ask about that. On the other hand, I have at most 7 minutes until I have
can
to
explain
go.
that real quick. I can explain that real quick.
Go for it.
So the book that you want to get is Robert Van Voorst's Jesus Outside the New Testament, and you want to read his Tacitus section. At the very end of it, he concludes with R.T. France that we can't actually establish that Tacitus received his information independent from the Gospels. Because we can't actually establish that his information is independent from the Gospels, there's no way that we can actually use it to substantiate that he did have independent knowledge of Jesus. And so it becomes this whole 50-50 thing where it could come from the Gospels, it could not come from the Gospels, but that ultimately renders it historically useless to us, right? But even then, like, you could go further into it, and the line that mentions Pontius Pilate and all this other stuff, that could be an interpolation. There's a solid and strong argument that's been yet to be refuted, made by character in peer-reviewed literature, that shows that it could have been, most likely it could have been interpolated, the passage about Pilate, and the passage was originally about Christians, which was another group that Suetonius records. So he was talking about Christians, Christus, and all that. And there's like forensic evidence to show that it was originally Christians and Christus and everything. So there's just simply Tacitus only reveals, like, even if we were to take it at face value that it's talking about Christians, the only thing that it reveals is that there were Christians in Rome in 64 CE that were blamed for the burning of Rome, and it talks about some of the things they believe.
Okay. Thank you.
And it's worth noting the Christus character that is plausibly being mentioned by Tacitus and also by Josephus was actually a rabble-rouser in Rome. That's actually how Suetonius actually describes it, like some person there by the name of Christus who basically stirred up trouble and had some sort of movement there that caused the Roman authorities to say nope and put the boot down. We don't really know too much of the detail given by the name Christus. I guess he was really into toothpaste. Really wanted that Crest toothpaste.
I got you.
Okay. We don't know too much about him because he's only quickly mentioned by Suetonius and maybe by Tacitus, but looks unrelated to the Christian movement.
Thank you. I will come back and check the recording later for that book title and the author.
Yeah, definitely. It's a good read. It covers a lot of the extra biblical sort of work on it. I disagree with Van Voorst's conclusion about, like Josephus and some other things, but I think overall he's got a pretty solid research thing. And I think maybe the reason why is because that book was written before any more modern scholarship on Josephus actually came out. So I think that it's just on those particular portions, it's out of date. But, like the Tacitus has a pretty good analysis.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. All right, Cedric, I hope you have a great night, and I hope you'll call again in the future.
I probably will. Have a nice night yourselves.
All right, see you later, Cedric. All right. Last call of the night, at least the last one that we have, in the queue right now. We are coming up kind of on time, though. So if you have any quick questions, or if any of the 3% in there really wants to defend Jesus existing as a historical figure, we'd love to talk to you. But our next call is Alex from Romania. What's up, Alex? You're on the line.
Hello, nice to hear you. I did not vote in the pool before, so I'm not one of the people who voted. I wanted to ask what other books and authors do you recommend other than Robert Vorst endorsing this argument, and also how do you consider the argument is doing in the scholar community? Is it trending upwards, downwards, or is it kind of stable? To my understanding, it is still a rather unpopular position within the larger community, but maybe it's trending upwards or not. I know.
Aaron, what do you think about this question?
Yeah, so a couple of things.
and authors.
Yeah. So very quickly, the mention of Van Voorst, that his book is not a book that actually promotes mythicism. He's a historicist, but says that the outside references to Jesus are largely unhelpful. So just to say that that's what Van Voorst's position is, but nonetheless, the authors who probably are the most worthwhile reading in terms of having the academic version of Jesus mythicism you should actually read. Richard Carrier, right up there at the top. Ralph Lataster has also written a book that went through peer review, got published by Brill 10 years ago, 5 years ago. I forget exactly how long ago that one was, but Brill is also like one of the most prestigious
Hello?
of the. Oh, can you hear us?
Hello?
Lisa. Oh goodness, are we having audio problems?
Are you there? You're on the web client. Your phone might have. I don't know why I'm trying to talk right now. He can't hear us.
Yeah. Shoot. Alex, I am making noises. I think John can hear me.
Yeah, I can hear you. I don't think that he can hear us though. I think his phone might have gone to sleep or something like that. Maybe, I'm not sure.
Okay. For the sake of the audience, I'll do my best to answer the question though. Carrier's books are probably the most go-to, especially his most recent one. John probably has a few things he can say about that book, its production, and the audiobook coming out for it coming soon, we think.
Yeah. I'm working on it. I'm working through it. It takes a lot to get that audiobook done.
Yeah. Less academic, but still good resources. David Fitzgerald writes in a really good way about this stuff.
Yeah. Sorry, were you talking about the Jesus from Outer Space? Obsolete Paradigm.
Absolute Paradigm, yes.
Yeah. Okay. Making sure I answered correctly. Sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah. I was saying like David Fitzgerald has several books that they're more popular written than Carrier's books, but they're still getting all the good points out there. So you at least can see where the discussion is. And David's just a phenomenally good writer, so it's going to be informative and you'll actually feel like it was worth reading. I am trying to add things to the literature as well, but this is a slow process, and I'm not nearly as good a writer as Carrier or Fitzgerald.
Yeah. I think that David Fitzgerald has a lot of great books. I actually did the cover art for Jesus Mything in Action. It's a 3-volume set. That's kind of like a set. It's like a second set tacked on to Nailed. But Nailed's good. Jesus Mything in Action is good. Raphael Lataster does have his one book that I would endorse, but it's pretty expensive because it's like a college level book. But yeah, those, and then really just Carrier has an awesome blog that has a lot of content on it about mythicism that you could read through, that where he tackles a lot of this stuff. But the most recent up-to-date stuff is going to be an Obsolete Paradigm, and an Obsolete Paradigm, as far as like the way that scholarship is trending, as far as like when I asked Carrier about that, was that individual topics or individual portions of New Testament scholarship are moving more towards the mythicist conclusion, right? Like they're reaffirming the mythicist conclusion, but the field on the whole is still very anti-mythicist, even though all the conclusions seem to be drifting towards that area of it. And it's like the things that Carrier was writing about in 2014 that everybody was like giving him a bunch of shit for, like now new scholarship is like actually guys, that's actually right. Yeah. Bart Ehrman is a pretty famous example of that happening. Like he ranted and raved against Carrier. I believe it was on the position of like whether or not Jesus was like divine, as far as Paul is concerned, like whether or not
if Jesus was an archangel, that's
right. And then a few years later, like Bart Ehrman just totally flipped that position and didn't say fucking shit about it. Like he admitted that, yeah, Paul thought of him as an archangel figure because he actually read the fucking epistles. And so it's, it's across the board. It seems to be like the previously controversial positions are getting reaffirmed by newer scholarship. So that seems to be the direction, at least what it seems to be right now.
Yeah. There are people who are at least trying to give it a little bit of attention, or I should say a little bit of time of day. And it's kind of weird in some ways that there are other paradigms that are getting more mainstream attention. So, for example, it was last year that Nita Livesey came out with her book arguing that all the epistles attributed to Paul are second century forgeries, which was a radical position that people would say, like, oh, this is only like what kooks from like the late 19th, early 20th century were pushing, the so-called Dutch radicals. And then she publishes out this book, and I think it was published either by Oxford or Cambridge, I forget. I went to SBL this last year where they had basically a panel discussion there, treating her work critically, but still saying it was worth the time discussing, and even like giving her some accolades for, here are things that she says she's right about. But saying that Paul didn't exist and the letters are all fake, that's about as fringe an idea as Jesus not existing. One of these, though, is getting at least mainstream discussion, and the other one is, being beaten back with a stick as fast as it can.
Yeah, there's actually a couple of people, a couple of scholars that are pushing for Marcion, that Marcionite thing, where like Evangelion was apparently the very first gospel written, and then all other gospels were based off of Evangelion. So I mean, there is some there are scholars that are pushing that. I'm not convinced by that position whatsoever, and I'm definitely not convinced that Paul didn't exist. I typically refactor my statements whenever that comes up to be like, well, we know that there's a certain set of these epistles that were all written by one person. They're all written in kind of one voice, and they communicate, this message and everything. And so like he claims to be Paul, whatever he was actually named, we don't know, I guess, but like we call him Paul because that's what he calls himself. And so that's kind of where I am at now. I don't know, where are you at on the whole Paul existing thing?
At least right now, I'm not convinced that the authentic 6 or 7 letters aren't authored by the same person, though they've gone through some level of editing or compiling by later people. So some stuff has been lost in the wash, but I think we have enough to say more likely a person than not wrote that combination. But it's not as solid as we would like it to be. It seems most likely true, but it's not gospel truth.
Right. Yeah, totally. Well, let's see. We don't have any more callers for right now, and we're about to move to super chats. So unless a theist wants to jump in the box real quick and defend Jesus, I mean, I feel like First Peter, whatever 35. I don't know what's that verse. Be prepared to defend your faith at any moment, like Batman. Come on, get on up in the box.
I think that's First Peter 3:15.
3:15. There you go. I knew there was a 3 and a 5 in there. And a teen. So anyways, if y'all want to get up in the box, you can. Otherwise, I think that we're going to move to super chats. Yeah, I don't know. I'd say
do you guys want to give it like 3 minutes?
Yeah, we could give it 3 minutes. Hey, if y'all have any questions that you don't feel is worth a call, you can send in a super chat, $5 or more. We're going to address all comments. If you got a question about mythicism, or about whether or not Christianity is good for society, what kind of systemic issues are perpetrated by Christianity or established by Christianity, send in a super chat, $5 or more. Dr. Aaron and Adair and I will address it. If you got some questions for a very scientifically minded person on the show, Dr. Adair will definitely answer your question if you send in a $5 super chat.
And if you got math problems, we can try to help. If we need be, we'll pull out the whiteboard and we'll do some differential equations together. Wait, did I just make the audience run away?
I don't know. You had me at differential equations. I remember in yes, any question there, infidel. I remember in college, one of the final math classes I actually took was was it differential equations? It might have been differential equations. I remember it was a complicated class. I loved the class, but like I would get one problem and it would take me the entire weekend to work out one problem. It was crazy.
Oh yeah. Diffie-Q, partial Diffie-Q. Yeah, it's a reason it's an entire branch of mathematics. It's just trying to figure out, you realize, okay, this is the form of this kind of equation. How the halibut are we going to solve this one? Figure it out one time, publish it, and never have to do that hard work. That's the whole point of differential equations class. Like, hey, we figure out how to solve this form of equation. So if you can get it in this form, you're done. And if not, that's when the pain really starts.
Yeah. The thing that I remember from it is that like everybody else in the class was lost. And so they were all like, "Hey, John, when are we going to do study hall?" And so like we would all meet up and I would be the one teaching the class like how to do the differential equations. And, that was, that was kind of, I guess, stressful a little bit because it's like, guys, I'm in the same class you are. I don't know why you're not getting this.
Occasionally I do have flashbacks and I just wake up in a cold sweat just shouting, "Spherical Bessel functions."
All right. Well, that's going to be our show for tonight, I believe. I really am disappointed with the 2 to 3% of people. I'm disappointed with 2% of the people that answered the chat poll, and then I am highly disappointed in the 20% because y'all don't want to get up and defend Jesus. Jesus needs your defense because he's not here to defend himself. We got $4.99 from Juju Penguins who says, if Guy Fieri puts on a rainbow shirt, would he transform into Gay Fieri? Every time I see him, the Veggie Tales cheeseburger song plays in my head. I don't know why y'all have to assault me with Guy Fieri shit. Did y'all see how fucking hideous he was in the Super Bowl halftime commercials? Like, why the fuck? Like, it scared the living shit out of me because it was like, did you not see him? I'm like, who was it? It was like, that's Guy Fieri. I'm like, no. And then he did his whole transformation thing into his like fucking shit. It pissed me off. Anyways, fuck Guy Fieri. I can travel around and eat fucking hot wings too. Anyways, go ahead, Aaron.
I'm remembering one of the ads from the Super Bowl this year. They had some sort of de-aging of a whole bunch of different actors at Dunkin' Donuts, and the DH10 Danson is haunting me right now. Everyone looks just so plastic. 5 pounds from Mystic Mind Analysis. One thing I noticed when I learned to play bass is how important sleep is. It is literally when the brain makes neural shortcuts for muscle memory.
Yeah, I need sleep. I don't know if y'all can tell, but I need it.
Oh yeah,
and I'm not getting it. $5 from the Raven 200 who says a Christian once told me that before the law of Moses was introduced, incest did not exist because siblings had totally different DNA. No, seriously. What the fuck is that, brain rot?
That it's at the very least it contradicts the book of Genesis because Lot and his daughters, that's incest right there, and that was before Moses. So if daughter fucking isn't incest because of DNA, I think we're just changing the way words mean so we don't have to go ugh.
Yeah, the Raven, you were talking to somebody from Alabama, weren't you? It's either Alabama or Mississippi. It's one of the two. I know. I live here. 696 from Franklin Harry Dwight Robert. Trump dropped the R in the clown's name. Trump sounds tough, I guess. Tump, wimpy. What can they do? Planting seeds here, people. Johnny Tumpseed.
I must go back in time because when Trump was originally running for president, John Oliver noted that actually Trump's original family name was Drumpf, and it was changed from D to T. And I think Drumpf is like also slang for a fart.
Yeah, that is really funny considering that he's like pepper spraying the entire Oval Office right now.
Oh, recently, yeah. That's when the shit's really hitting the fan, yeah.
Yeah. Quite literally.
All right, we got 1999 generously given by Infidel 3476. Why? I assume that was the tone he was going for.
I mean, maybe. I don't know.
You guys said if you had any questions.
Yeah, I know, right?
Oh, I can answer that. Why not?
Yeah. I mean, that is the question, right? Why? Anyways, $5 from Space Barbarian 3484 who says, those who read Carl Sagan's Contact may remember that the protagonist was a secular Christian. That nuance was removed for the movie. That's interesting. I didn't know that.
I'm trying to remember which protagonist, the one played by Matthew McConaughey?
Yeah, I don't know, because I thought that it wasn't Helen Hunt. Who was it? There was
Jodie Foster.
Jodie Foster. She was taken off of the project in that movie because she wasn't religious.
Wait, no, Jodie Foster is the person who played the main character in there. Arroway was her name? I forget. But the character was not religious. In fact, it was the reason that she wasn't supposed to be able to originally go on the mission to meet the aliens until the whole thing blew up, and then she was the replacement crew.
Right.
And if memory serves, her character was also atheistic in there. In fact, funny enough, so when I was an undergrad, I got to do an internship at the SETI Institute, the guys who were actually scientifically hunting for aliens out in California. And one of the people working there is the inspiration for Carl Sagan's character there. Jill Tarter is the name of the astronomer there, who basically has spent her life doing the hunt for extraterrestrial signals. And she's sharp as a tack and was an inspiration to Sagan to create this character. And she also doesn't believe in religion at all.
Okay. I believe this one's yours, right?
I think it's your turn.
Oh, my turn. I'm so out of it. Never had a bidet. All right, $5. Hey, Godless, I was watching Trust But Verify last week. Thank you so much for helping him with his sound issues. Really awesome. Yeah, totally. So Trust But Verify is an awesome creator over there on TikTok. They do fabulously. And he was having some trouble getting Voicemeeter to be bi-directional between TikTok and Video Ninja. And so I helped him sort his chords out. And yeah, it was a great time.
And also, because of the name, if I can recommend, it is worth installing a bidet. You will feel cleaner than you do normally.
I've been to Japan once before, and I have to say the bidet was one of the better parts of the experience.
I've installed one onto our toilet, so just a simple add-on. It's easy to put on. Even a non-plumber like me did not break the toilet.
I mean, I'm an engineer, so I guess I could figure it out. I mean, all I need is a hammer and a knife, and I figure I can do anything, I guess. Anyways, thank you, heathens, for joining us this week. Definitely check out the rest of the shows this week. Apparently, we have shows every single day this week, so you are going to be not missing anything. Any single day, you've got something to watch. And I guess we will see you heathens later. Don't forget to stand up, use your voice, and all that kind of good shit. We've got our crew, the mods, the screeners, Alexander on the back end doing the production. Thank you to Stephanie, the call-in screener that was here at the beginning of the show. Thank you to all the mods in the chat. You guys are awesome.